Okay, welcome to Hope It Up. This is Hope Coach. My Hope Hero's not here tonight. Hope Hero Coach isn't here tonight. She's on her way back from Washington, D.C. So we're going to do what I do best, is talk about sports. So I have a special guest tonight. This is a young man that started playing. He couldn't wait till he turned 15. That was the rule. You had to be 15 to play for me. And I remember the day you and Nadu walked in the gym during practice and you said, "It's my birthday, I turned 15. I'll never forget that day. Mm-hmm. And so I was ready for you. So that's how. This is my guest, Christopher Kuhn, one of my ball players from, oh my gosh, way back when. And he does a lot of stuff with the youth, which everybody that knows, this is what I'm all about. I'm dedicating this show to my son, Steve. This Wednesday would have been Steve's 36th birthday. So that's why I'm kind of anxious to have one of my boys on with me tonight. Because Steve, as everybody knows, loved his basketball team. I mean, for years and years, that's all he cared about was these boys. You know, he didn't care color, size, whatever. He didn't care. He just loved these boys. They were all his brothers. And a little story I'm going to tell you, the Christmas before he died, he gave me back all the jerseys that we wore through all the years. Wow. He saved them all, and he gave them back to me. Wow. As a Christmas present. So they're going to go up in my mom cave, I call it. Yeah. I have a Tolliver wall, and I have a Golden State wall, and I have a Louisville wall. So it's going to go up on my wall with all your boys' stuff. Awesome. Yeah, so awesome. This is Kris, and what we're going to talk about tonight is something that just really irks me, is youth sports. Working with, I work at the YMCA, and I run the high school league, and I see these kids, all ages, and it doesn't matter if it's basketball, volleyball, whatever the sport. Whatever happened to fundamentals?
Well, that's a good question, Donna. First off, I wanted to just thank you for allowing me to be on the show and, giving me this opportunity. As Donna said, when I was 15 years old, I started playing with Donna, and I remember when I was a kid, my older brother used to play for him, and just the most amazing players that were in Omaha at the time all played for Donna. I remember when I was 12, 13 years old, going out of town and watching them just clean teams by 30, 40 points. These are some of the premier teams that are out of town, and they're just getting beat by 30 or 40 points, and I couldn't wait to be a part of the program. So as soon as I turned 15, that was the rule. So I was really happy, and now things are coming around full circle. So I'm just happy to be a part of the whole program. But in regards to youth sports, I mean, it's there's definitely a big void there in the market. There's definitely some really good youth sports programs out there. And then on the other hand, there are some that aren't, taking the time to be able to develop those kids. I would say all the way up until, so people need to understand two things. All up until about 8th grade, probably even 9th grade, everything that the kids do should all be about development. The teams that they play for, the coaches that are going to be training them, everything that they do is all about development, right? After you hit about 8th and 9th grade, it starts to make more of a transition into exposure, because now these kids are, facing high school talent who's getting ready for the next level. So it makes that transition from I'm working on my game to now I need to be getting that exposure to be able to get to that next level.
Well, a lot of things I see is, being with the Y, they take baby steps in learning. I do 1st through 4th grade volleyball. So, you see these camps that these kids go in, and they're teaching them how to do stuff that is like way above what, they need to learn the basics first. Even with fundamentals, I teach the fundamental basketball. You got to do the absolute basics, because if you can't dribble a ball, you're not going nowhere. I'm sorry. A good person, and everybody knows me, knows I'm a Stephen Curry fan, but probably since the day he was born, the boy's had a basketball in his hand, and he still works on his game. My son, Matt, we were just having this discussion last night watching him play. It's just like he's constantly working on his game. And you can tell the players that do that, you can tell players like Ginobili and them, they run backwards on the court. You need to do little things. Because if you don't, you're going to get beat by your opponents. And the thing that I stress with you boys, I never ran plays. I just had, I was just fortunate. I had talent. And we just wanted to play. You guys just wanted to play together. We had kids from all schools. It wasn't just one group. I mean, we had kids from Bryan and Central and, everywhere, even small towns, Waterloo, Bennington. And you guys we just had fun.
But that's a big part of coaching as well. You don't want to get a talented team and then overcoach. All right, you don't want to turn a talented team into robots. If you got a team that can go out there and play, it takes a good coach to be able to recognize that, roll the ball out, and put an offense in place where everyone's going to be successful. But on the flip side, I'm sure that you coached a bunch of teams to where you didn't necessarily have that talent, and now you have to kind of put some of those pieces together and overcoach. But a good coach is going to know the difference between the two.
A good example, and I got some quotes, and when I'm always reading stuff online about different things, about what coaches say. College coaches like Patino and all these different coaches are saying, Coach K and them are saying, when the kids get to college, they don't have the fundamentals. That's the thing that's lacking. And I think some of it is they don't have PE anymore. Schools don't have PE. So, that's what you did in PE. You threw out the basketballs, whatever. You did volleyball, boys and girls, and same with basketball. But now you don't have that. So it's just like, you can go outside and hit the playground or whatever. And then I was just talking to my guy over here, and we were talking about, the kids think they know it all already. They think they know it all already, and you don't. I'm sorry. I ran the high school league through the Y, and I had 22 Creighton prep teams in there. So much talent. And I was just like, what do they want in their schools? Or their kids were talented, from different schools. I was like, once you try out for your school team, they already know who they want. So go out there anyway. Put in the work, And some coaches, number one, you got to have grades.
Definitely.
I won't name the name, but there's a kid that's out there in the Metro now. The most talented ball player of the year, don't have the grades.
And I'll interject. All these kids out there right now who are at home working on their games, and as Donna said, that there are a lot of kids who aren't putting that time, and that's because of all the distractions that they got out there. Nowadays they got the social media and the Twitters, and we didn't have these things when we were coming up. All we had was a basketball in a driveway, and if we needed to, we would walk wherever we needed to just to get some shots up. But right now it's just like these kids. They don't understand the work that goes into actually being successful, right? I mean, it doesn't matter if that coach already has his team picked out. Are you going to put in the work to be able to beat one of those kids out of a spot?
Right.
And these kids don't understand what goes into that.
Yeah, if you don't go to fall conditioning, you don't go to weight training, you don't go to everything, or you don't play in the fall league, you don't play and do everything your coach asks. I don't care how talented you are. Number one, to me, you shouldn't make the team. And I see, coaches out there, and I see players out there saying, well, I don't need to. Oh, I'm telling you, you do. And to me, a big thing with me is attitude. I could say stories, even about you. I didn't deal with attitudes. I don't. I just can't handle it. I don't care. A good example is, the Creighton prep kids. I love these kids. They would come in there, and they respected me, and I respected them. So they didn't bring adults in to babysit them. We were good, but I wasn't afraid to check them. And the thing is, I tell them, I said, what, I'm trying to teach you how to be grown men now. You're high school, you're junior, you're senior. You're not a kid. I'm not going to treat you like one. And during the tournament we had a couple weeks ago, I heard one of the kids repeat that to another player on his team. It's like, now, remember what Miss Donna says. We come out here, we got to respect the game. I said, you walk into the gym, you're walking into my house. You're going to respect the game. You're going to respect their teammates. I don't care if you like them. They're your teammates. Okay, I got a question for you. What do you think about coaches or parents that coach their kids?
It's good to a certain extent. I have 3 kids myself. I have a 12-year-old daughter, 6-year-old daughter, and a 3-year-old son. And all of them play basketball. I would say, the younger ones are probably a little more serious, but it's not a problem at all if you're going to coach a kid, as long as you know what you're doing. Now, the caution that I would give to all the parents out there who are training their kids and coaching their kids and whatnot would be to give a little bit of diversity in there as well. I've coached as well, and I've coached kids who, their parents have been a part of their training and their teams and that whole environment so long that they find it hard to trust other coaches, right? So it's difficult to coach a kid when every time they miss a shot, they're looking in the stands for their dad. Every time, the coach gives a play or the coach gives some type of instruction on the court, they're looking for that confirmation from their parent in the stands. And so that's just not conducive to a player that's going to develop throughout throughout his or her career. At some point, hopefully that kid goes off to college, and that dad, that mom definitely will have no say so.
Well, like even when they get into past elementary school, junior high.
Yeah.
I mean, good example was when I coached at Jesuit, and I told the kids, I said, if any of you look in the stands while we're playing and not at me, you will sit down.
Yeah. It makes it difficult.
And I
for the
remember
coach.
doing that too, because I was very fortunate that with Steve, and I wasn't mom. You all called me mom, but I was coach. I wasn't, hey mom, and I see so many coaches that are so hard on their own child, to the point where to me it's almost abusive.
Yeah.
So are you really treating your own child fair?
It's difficult. It really is.
A true coach could.
I would say I played with Donna and I've also played with Steve on that same team, and Steve was definitely held to a higher standard, but because of that, Steve was our leader on our team, and you see kids like that and you could tell that they were coached and they had someone in their life who knew what they were doing, but like I said, it's a fine line. Sometimes that kid could be overcoached and sometimes it could hurt his confidence. Other times it's me being a dad, it'll be very difficult for me to be fair while watching the whole entire team while having my child on the court. That's a difficult task, and so I can honestly say I wouldn't be able to do it. So it's not for everyone, but for the coaches out there who are talented enough to do something like that and balance them both and have their own child out here and still pay attention to the other 4 or the other 9 players out on the court, more power to them. But it's difficult. It's very difficult.
I got a hold of some of my friends that are coaches, and Coach Mo, I help him with his basketball camps and stuff. He runs camps, individual training, coaching, and I asked him what he thought about youth sports. So he said was parent engagement in sports and letting the coach do their job and giving feedback. Don't give it in front of the kids. So parents, I see this all the time. Do not demean a coach in front of the kids.
Yeah.
If you want to talk to the coach, do it after the game or whatever. Make a phone call or text them. But do not, because all you're doing is telling your child, it's okay to be that way. So anything, and we're just very fortunate that with sports as we have, and I use life lessons. This is a life lesson. So I say, and Mo, with his camp, I would just soon have parents drop off their kids and leave. Leave for that hour. Go do something. Let the coach in training or in camps or whatever deal with the kids. You just back off. Number one, what I did with fundamentals at the Y, you get your parents, especially with cell phones nowadays, they're supposed to me, I love watching kids, so my phone goes down. But you see parents on their phones. So what I did, I said, okay, parents, you're going to interact with your child. So I said, okay, kids, and the kids were so excited about this. I said, okay, teach your parent how to do a bounce pass. Teach them how to do a chest pass. Put your phones down, and the kids were so excited. I said, now when you go home, that's your homework, is to get your parent out there and help you with it.
That's awesome.
Kids came back, and the parents were all excited about phones were up.
Yeah.
I said, just because you put your phone up, that doesn't mean you're still not going to come out here. I said, you never know when I'm going to pull you out here, because you need to be seen. If your kid comes up to you and says, hey, what do I do? You're not going to have a clue, because you're not watching. Your child's not going to be around. Take it from me. With Steve not being around, you got to cherish those moments with your kid, all the way through. I don't care, because it's the little things like that. Clyde came over Clyde Smith came over the other day, and he was talking about, I remember this and I remember that, You know, Steve was always my go-to. He remembered everything. I don't remember what I did last week. You know, but Steve could tell you who scored what. I remember the game in Waterloo. I remember that game like it was yesterday. But other than that, you know, that was his, you know, when he passed away, his table we had all of his stuff out there, you know, and with Hoop It Up and all that. You know, this is all life lessons, you know. So I totally agree with what Mo says, you know. I think you ought to just drop them off and go, you know.
You know, along that same line, and this is for every parent out there that has a child playing basketball or playing any sport for that matter, any team sport for that matter. It's very easy to look at your child or your individual. You know, me being a trainer, I train around 60 kids on a weekly basis, so 60 kids in several different programs. It's really easy for me to look at this kid and see their individual talents, right? And so I know what they're good at, and I know what they need development on. And this goes the same with any parent, I'm sure. But we don't necessarily always understand how that coach is using those talents. So this is the reason why I say that, you know, parents should definitely take the time to, you know, learn the program, learn the coaches and whatnot, and learn what their players doing. But at the same time, you don't necessarily always have to have a opinion on. You don't necessarily always have to have an opinion on, you know, everything on how the team's being ran and whatnot. And that's simply because you don't always have the understanding. If you're not involved every single day in their practice and you don't know how those, you know, how your kid matches up with the other players, then you don't necessarily need an opinion. So, like I said, along the same lines, just dropping your kid off and letting the coach do their job. That's usually what's best. I
totally agree with that. I'm very fortunate that some of my basketball players are coaches now. So I reached out to Jared Anderson. He was going to be here, but something came up tonight. He's the head coach at Omaha North boys basketball. And I asked him what he thought, and he said, kids play in many games and don't work on their skills, which I totally agree with that. Because when you're playing in a game, you know, you're just trying to learn the plays, trying to do this, trying to do that. So if you don't have the skills by the time you get to the team, you should have made the team. Yeah. That's, you know, this is all my opinion, though. Not enough kids are putting the work in the driveway. Shooting skill is at an all-time low.
Yes.
All-time low. You know, which is sad because there's so many tools out there, and this is what we're talking about, the internet and stuff. You know, there's so many tools out there. You know, there's a player that plays, I think the best passer in the NBA plays for Minnesota. You know, Rubio. Best passer in the NBA. You know, Stephen, you're up there, but Rubio, to me, is the best passer. You know, if you want to be a good passer, and that's what I told Reuter, you know, watch his videos. You know, study videos. Not game tapes, not games. Study videos of, say, if somebody comes up and say, oh, your passing is weak, you know, well, what do you think I need to do? Don't just take everything as, you know, as being criticism. They're trying to help you. You know, I'm sitting there, even with the little girls in volleyball, I'm like, do this, do that. I don't know nothing about volleyball. I do now. Yeah. But when basketball, you know, if you just do this and the kids would come up, hey, coach, what can I do different? And I'm running the Y. I'm not a coach, but they respect me because I am a coach. You know, and so do the South boys. You know, they do too. But, yeah, shooting, you can do that in your driveway. Yeah. You know, just stand out there. I remember when I ran a daycare, and when the kids got in trouble, I always made them go out and shoot 100 free throws. Yeah. You know, and when one of the kids played in high school, he said he was the best free throw shooter because he remembered me having him go out there to shoot free throws.
I always tell these kids, even now, is that, you know, it's no secret recipe to success. You know, Stephen Curry is the greatest shooter that probably ever played in the NBA because of the amount of work that he put in. You know, if you want to be a good shooter and you're not putting up hundreds, if not thousands of shots every single day, then it shouldn't be any surprise that you're not going to be a good shooter, you know? So, you know, along those same lines, yeah, it's you have a lot of kids playing in all these games, but I challenge any kid out there, think about your last basketball game that you played in, and think about how many shots you actually put up, right? How many shots you actually worked on in that game. And it's really not a lot, you know? The game is the time for you to be able to showcase what you've learned in practice. But oftentimes is being neglected is the practice, right? The preparation that goes into that game. So, you can go out there and you could play, 10 games every single week, and out of those 10 games, I guarantee you're not going to put up more than 100 shots,
And if you do, you're a ball hog.
If you do, you're a ball hog. Yeah. But, and 100 shots in a week just isn't enough to elevate your game. Isn't enough to take it to that next level. So, along the same lines as Jared was saying, and along the same lines as Donna was saying, is that, that the practice, the preparation that goes into these games is being neglected. And that's, what I said at the beginning is that, in some of these youth sports and some of the younger ages, it needs to be all about development. It's great that the coach will, get practice together and, run through this and do drills and so on and so forth. But be mindful that it's all about getting better at that age. Once they get a little bit older, like I said, it's more so exposure, but we can't neglect to put in the work to that preparation.
Right, and also I'm going to emphasize grades. I'm glad they raised the GPA.
Yes.
And even with you guys in the summertime, I was all about the grades. Mm-hmm. So what it was summer, one of the most talented basketball players I ever had was Courtney. And I could have got him in any college.
Rigby?
No, Courtney Hudson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Courtney jumped, man, he could jump out the building, And I had people ask me about him all the time. But when I went to get his GPA, he wasn't even eligible to even be playing for the team.
Yeah.
Besides, I couldn't even get him. Nobody ever told him about the SATs. Nobody ever told him about the ACTs.
Yeah.
As if you want to go to college, you can't find, everything's on the internet. Go to whatever college you're thinking about going to. Say, okay, I'm thinking about playing bat. Not everybody's going to make it. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to make it. Not everybody's going to make the NBA. I'm not saying stop following your dreams because you got to have a dream, but you got to be realistic.
Yeah.
And I remember Boomer when he played at Bellevue. Everybody just expected Matt to play basketball just because he was my son.
Yeah.
And he loved to read. He loved, to study. You guys always said Matt was so smart,
Yeah.
Well, Boomer said if I would have had he said he would have put down a basketball that day if he would have studied as hard as Matt.
Yeah.
Because he's going to have to fall back on, not basketball his whole life. So you need to think about past your 4 years of college, if you're fortunate enough to get to college.
The two really go hand in hand. Let's say even if you got dreams of playing pro basketball, you got dreams of playing, college basketball, the two go hand in hand. There is no way, literally 0% chance that you will be able to go to college no matter how good you are. You could be LeBron James, right? There is no more skipping over to college and going to the NBA. That air is dead.
I'm glad.
So, there's no way that you could be able to get into college based off of pure skill. It doesn't matter how talented you are. So you can spend all those hours in the gym. You could be the greatest player to play. You could be Michael Jordan right now, right? You're still not going to be able to go to college on any type of basketball scholarship or play on anybody's court in college if you don't have the grades. So that being said, these two go hand in hand. So just as hard as you work on the court is just as hard as you have to work in the classroom. And
don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
And another thing is like conditioning. You have to take care of your inside.
Yeah.
What I used to do with South was I would have a nutrition program. Fall conditioning. This is what you eat before you play. This is what you eat. This is what you do during the game. This is how you get yourself, re-energized after the game.
Yeah.
There's certain things you do because when you're out there playing, all of a sudden you're drained. It's because you're not eating right. So you got to think. Food is your fuel. You don't eat, you're done.
Yeah.
And so the coach makes you run lines. So what? You have to be ready because you never know.
Yeah.
And a good coach is going to make you do that. And number one, suck it up and deal with it. Because your coach out there, and I know a lot of these Metro coaches, and they know what they're doing. Coach Chubbuck, he just didn't have a championship team. Look how it took him 10 years to get there.
Yeah.
Because the kids believed in him. You have to believe in your coach. You have to believe in their philosophy. That doesn't mean when you get to college, they're not going to have the same philosophy. So you need to learn to play with all players. Doesn't matter race or whatever. I just dealt with a game. Or the race thing. We dealt with that. And the good, life lessons these guys learned was I was the only woman coach.
Yeah.
So they learned, we were called gangbangers, and if they're playing for a man, blah, blah, blah. The guys heard all that.
Yeah.
They didn't care, you know. And I remember somebody asked your brother once, asked Mike, why do you play for her? He goes, you just got to play for her to get it.
Yeah.
We don't know. It just works.
Yeah.
And how I became a coach just kind of fell into it.
We were a family. That's really the best way I can describe it, and that's the reason why I played for Donna, is because, it's one thing, and I'm sure every player out there has played for some type of coach or some type of team where, you could have been a great player or you could have had a great team, but for some reason it just didn't fit. It just didn't click, and that was the chemistry that you were all missing. And we were fortunate enough to have a very talented team, but as you see with some of the teams that's in the NBA right now, you could put all the talent on one team, and that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a successful program. For whatever reason, we had a talented team, and we were fortunate enough to have a coach to make it all come together.
You liked each other.
Chemistry, yeah. We were genuinely a family.
Yeah.
I passed the ball to my teammate not because my coach made me, not because that was a play, but because I genuinely wanted my teammate to score. I was happy to see you do good, and it was all vice versa. And when you're playing for a team like that, it just all comes together.
And another thing was, the guys are like, who's going to start? We don't care who starts, And I remember to this day, Ben came back. He's coaching also, and him and Marty were saying one day that they learned other things from me, like patience.
Mm-hmm.
And you just gotta, even if you don't like your coach, you don't like your players, then maybe it's not a good fit. Like Kris said, maybe it's not a good fit for you.
Yeah.
But the one thing that really irritates me is these kids that transfer from school to school to school to school.
Yeah.
Okay, as a college coach, or any college, not even the coach, but as college per se, they're investing their money and time into you. Mm-hmm. And they're going to look at you and go, wow, he went to 4 high schools. So what makes you think that he's going to stay with me if he don't like it? He could leave. They're investing all that time and all that money, mm-hmm. where they could have given it to somebody who really wants to be there and they know it's going to stay. Mm-hmm. So think about that when you're not getting your way, you're going to transfer. Mm-hmm. If I was a coach, I wouldn't take kids that transferred. Mm-hmm. Maybe as a freshman or sophomore, but as coming in as a senior, forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stay where you're at and just deal with it.
To me, it fosters a quitting mentality. I played for coaches that I didn't necessarily care too much for, but at the same time, it was an opportunity for me to learn another program. You're not going to always be the big fish in the sea, so it's an opportunity for you to be able to learn and be able to succeed in another program that may be a challenge for you, So like I said, I played for a bunch of coaches on a bunch of teams that I struggled in, and I like to consider myself having somewhat of a successful career, but I played in programs where I struggled in, and for the most part I stayed in all those programs simply because it was an opportunity for me to learn and get better.
Right, but kids don't, some kids think they deserve.
Mm-hmm. Oh no.
Working at the Y, you see, the kids are like, their entitlement is so big now with
mm-hmm.
kids.
Mm-hmm.
With kids, and then on the flip side of it, you have bullying.
Yeah.
You have a kid that might be so talented, but for some reason he doesn't look like
mm-hmm.
the other kids, or maybe he doesn't dress like the other kids, so he feels like he shouldn't be able to play.
Mm-hmm.
So just treat everybody with respect.
Yeah.
I get a text here from Coach Lukey, and he says, in youth sports, we're losing the fact that it's about building fundamentals and teaching life lessons. If you hold kids accountable at a young age, then they're more likely to do the right things when they get into high school. Too many high school athletes are not accountable for their actions and do not hold up their end of the bargain, and they still play.
Yeah.
Because in youth sports, it's all about winning. We are missing opportunities to teach life lessons.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm very fortunate that Coach Lukey, we become friends over the years. And the thing, people always look down on Creighton Prep, and you went to prep for, Nadeau went to prep and stuff. And I admit, 4 or 5 years ago, I had this prep,
Yeah.
But I love the kids from prep.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked for all the kids from prep to be on my Saturday and Sunday league. because the kids, they just have a good time.
Yeah.
And I tell the other coach, come, they're so serious, I was like, just let your kids have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
This is why basketball.
Yeah.
Still, I'm strict,
Yeah.
and I'm structured, but they still got to have some fun.
Mm-hmm.
When you take fun out of the game, guys, it's, you're going to lose all interest.
Yeah.
Parents, I remember coaching little kids at the Y when Matt was little. Parents used to pay their kids for every point they scored. Oh, no. See ya, your kid, either you got to go.
Yeah.
Or your kid's not going to play. But we will not do that because you're teaching your kid nothing. And the kid went on to play high school ball, still have that attitude like I'm all that. All the way up to, first grade, all the way up. So parents, you got to think about what you're teaching your kids.
Definitely. And, Josh Luke, he's a good friend of mine. He actually coached me when I was a kid. And, still one of the great basketball minds in Omaha left. But yeah, I would agree. The game has to be fun to some extent. My kids right now, well, my two youngest, 3 years old and 6 years old. I see so many kids or so many parents who are, taking these kids to the gym and, starting them on this and starting them doing this. And we can't forget that the kid has to first develop a love for the game. And how do they get that love is first, it has to be fun. It has to be fun for a kid. Who really, I would say, any kid out there who's under the age of 12, right? So 11 and under. And there are going to be a few exceptions to that rule, but, most of the kids who are within that age bracket, they're not going to want to do anything if it's not fun. So we have to find a way just to keep it fun for them. The older we get and the higher we climb in basketball, the more it becomes a job. Starting at, really that high school basketball level. And, once you get to college, people understand this, but, if your team's losing in college, if that college coach is losing games, then he runs the risk of losing his job. His family doesn't eat, and so on and so forth. So we understand the type of pressure that's on these schools and the type of pressure that's on this coach. And the higher you climb in these ranks, it just becomes less fun and more of a job. So while these kids are young, we need to keep it fun for them so they develop a love for the sport.
Well, another thing is, kids are getting stretched, too thin. Like the girls from volleyball. This one little girl, she just didn't want to be there because she had violin on Mondays, dance on Tuesdays, blah, 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 blah. You got to let your kid's going to burn out for one, and they're going to hate something. Don't make them do something. They say, I really don't want to do that. Fine. Don't force your child to do something because, number one, they're not going to be good at it, and they're going to rebel. And that's where you're going to find kids getting in trouble.
And as far as, a kid being a multi-sport or having time here and these extracurriculars, I'm all for that at really a young age. But, I'll be one of the few that go out and say that, as the kid gets older, you have to start making that choice. I have a kid right now that I train who he's all-state track. He's an awesome football player. He's an awesome basketball player. But what happens is he gives so much time and commitment to each one of these sports while he's in season that it kind of neglects the training for the rest of any other sport that he wants to be involved in, right? So during football season, he's given all his time and all his commitment for about 4 or 5 months out of the year to nothing but football, right? So it puts him a step behind because you have all these basketball players or all these track stars who are doing nothing but just working on their game, and throughout that time he's completely dedicated to this one sport. And same thing with basketball, same thing with track. So essentially you're not really a multi-sport athlete, you're a 3-sport athlete 4 times a year. So you're just not doing yourself, you're putting yourself kind of at a disadvantage compared to some of your peers.
Right. And Kenton Keith was a good example of this. Kenton ran track, he did football, he did basketball. I mean, he was just born talent.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most talented athletes I ever had.
Yeah.
And I remember when he was playing in districts and he strained his Achilles, and I'm like, Kenton, come out.
Yeah.
And the coach like, no, he's got to play. I go, no, he don't, because football's his ticket.
Yeah.
Football's his ticket. If he tears his Achilles, boom, he's done.
Yeah.
So basically, I was like, called all kinds of things but I made him sit down.
Yeah.
Because, I actually cared about Kenton. His family wasn't here. I'd take him, make Burger King still, make sure they ate and everything, But you got to think past the sport and think about what are they going to do if they get hurt. And girls athletes, they say now, the percentage is so high.
Yes.
on girls getting hurt. Because number one, and I'm a good example of this, not stretching. Man, you got to stretch. Because I've had 6 surgeries from the knees down from not stretching. You know, so, and like I said, the fuel inside, eating, you know, kids come home, parents are, who knows what they're doing, and they're eating junk. And then they're staying up all night. Yeah, you might think they're not in bed, trust me. You know, they got their cell phones out, a computer, whatever. So you need your sleep, you need your, you know, fuel, study, you know, you get home, eat, do the grades, and then if you have time, get outside and do your sport.
So much goes into being great. You know, every kid, they say they want to be good, they say they want to be great, but, you know, I really doubt that these kids can really wrap their minds around. They look at players like LeBron James and Stephen Curry and, you know, all these great players, and they see the finished product, right? But I don't think many kids out there can wrap their minds around all the work that went into making those players the players that they are today.
Yeah, and go look. Go back and read their history. Read their story. You know, they didn't come, you know, Stephen, yeah, his dad, but his dad also made him work.
Yeah, definitely. If you look at old buddy from Oklahoma, they were talking about, you know, his mom was saying, and this is during the Final Four game, his mom was saying, and this is kind of synonymous with all the players who are going to be great or who are great. His mom was saying that, you know, anytime she would turn her back or she would leave the house, he would sneak off to the gym. Now, yeah, I would challenge all these kids. Yeah, I was a teenager once myself, and, you know, I snuck off. But I love to have a room full of teenagers or high school kids right now who the last time you snuck off to the gym, you know. Or, you know, it'd be dinner time, and she would have to literally go down the street to the court and pull him off the court just to get him to come inside and eat. You know, and you have a player like that who's going to put in that type of time and effort, you know, you can almost guarantee nothing else other than success. But the other side to that coin is that, you know, if you're going to put in all that work tearing down your body, you also have to do the work to be able to sustain it, right? You got to take care of your body. If you're going to go out there and put in, you know, 3, 4, 5 hours of work every single day, lifting weights, getting shots up, it's a lot of strain on your body, and it won't be able to last. I'm a testament to that. I tore my Achilles playing basketball about 7 years ago, and it's just, you know, wear and tear and me not taking care of my body. So I can guarantee at some point, if you're not doing that, the stretching and the icing and, you know, all the things that come into sustaining that body throughout the years, then you won't make it.
Okay, I have, we're going to wrap this up a little bit, but Steve Warren played for Nebraska. He's a football coach at Northwest High School now, and he's the owner and the starter of the Dream Foundation. I've been trying to get him on my show, but he sent me this today. He says, lack of athletic development and emphasis on fundamentals in all sports is lacking at the youth level, as well as quality coaching, which we already reiterated. There are plenty of volunteer coaches who mean well, but lack the general knowledge to develop athletes and set up a well-structured practice that will help benefit the players or the team. So structure is a big thing. I'll tell you what, kids, and I'm going to reiterate the thing about the grades. If you do not understand the plays, and this is knowledge, book knowledge, how to learn, knowing how to learn. If you can't go out there on the court and a coach has to take extra amount of time to teach you something that if you just book learned and learned how to listen and learn, you would catch on. So basically, if you don't get it, they have to change their whole entire offense or defense around you not getting it. And you wonder why you're not getting playing time. And then you get the attitude, or the parent comes out like, oh, why is my son not playing? Well, I can give you numerous reasons, you know. So anyway, these are coaches that I respect, and I just was kind of hoping we'd get a round table, but it didn't work out with all the things going on. But I'm so glad I brought Kris here. I'm so glad, I'm proud of my guys. Arthur, all you guys that are out there coaching, you know, I see Arthur, and he says, you know, just to see the way maybe I might add a little bit on you guys giving back. Because 23 years later, I'm still doing it. You know, I might not be coaching a team, and Matt would really like to see me get back into coaching, you know, but I don't agree with the stuff that goes on nowadays. So I don't know if people want me in their program. So I'm better off sitting aside, because I got kids in all schools, from Jesuit, from everywhere. You know, coaches that are coaching at all different places. So I kind of root for everybody, you know, and that's just the way I am. That's the way I like it.
Yeah.
And I feel like at the Y, I can kind of give back
And
the way I do. So
I can understand. I can agree with that totally. Like I said, I coach around, I train around 60 to 70 kids on a weekly basis, and all of them are part of different programs. One of the things that I see and it really burns me up, is that some of these coaches, they grab a hold of these kids, and it could be at, you know, elementary level, 5th, 6th grade, even 4th grade, and they grab a hold of these kids, and it's almost like these kids are under contract, right? I don't want you playing for any other school. I don't want you playing for any other team, any other program. If you go anywhere and practice with anyone else, I need to know about it. And, you know, like I said, at that level, it just should be about development. You know, if you have a kid out there who can commit to 2 or 3, even 4 teams, and be able to make practice at all of them, be able to contribute to all of them, make all the games for all of them, then more power to them. I'll go out and I'll say this, is that at that age, the focus should be development. You should have a ball in your hand as much as possible. So if you are, I would encourage kids to play for as many teams as possible. You know, granted that you can understand each system and contribute and be able to meet the requirements of each system. But I would encourage each kid out there to get as much basketball in as possible. And I would think that any program that really cares about that youth's individual development should want the same. You shouldn't be taking away any opportunities for them to get better, or any opportunities for them to be in the gym. I
remember you guys all playing for Valentino's, all the different schools, and when you always came back, I said, you always got a spot for me. Yeah. We came back and we just had fun.
Yeah.
You know, that you guys always just knew you had a spot.
Yeah.
You know, because I didn't try out 200 kids to make a team. I was just fortunate. We just had brothers and cousins and whatever, you know. So, all right, well, this is our show for tonight. I got Mr. Hamilton coming on here. Kris, thank you.
I appreciate it.
We'll definitely hit on this again, get some other people, but this is something that needs to be, you know, talked about a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I'm basically going to be teaching a basketball 101 class for parents at the Y, because I think if you understood the game, you wouldn't be so screaming at officials and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, make it easier for the coaches out there.
Right, because I don't think you know what's going on. So we need to also, you need the knowledge.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree, and I wanted to reiterate too. There are some great basketball programs at the youth level in Omaha, Nebraska, and you know, the ones who are doing it right and the ones who have the kids' best interests. I applaud you. And if you know there's anything that you know we can be able to do or I can be able to do to help that program, then please let me know.
Yeah, me too. Me also.
Yeah.
I'm going to be putting on a camp and getting some of my guys to help with the camp this summer. Something I've been wanting to do for a long time. So we'll you know do all this in memory of my son, and you know it's heavy on my heart because his birthday's this Wednesday. So next week we're going to be having some of his friends. I think people just need to talk. You know, feel the feelings. You need to understand the feelings that the people that are left behind from suicide.
Yeah.
You know, once you're gone, it's final. But the people, I think, once people hear how everybody else has to live, I think some people might actually not change their mind, but maybe have second thoughts.
I think that's a great idea.
So, all right. Well, we'll peace out, everybody, and till next week.
Thank you.